Here I have an Apache 9800. It's a Pelican case generic version, and I'm setting it up for going to the range and doing just some basic tactical shooting, and we'll see how fun it is to set up. One thing I've seen a lot of here on YouTube is people like to basically pull out this entire layer and then cut it out. Unfortunately, this is what we call pick and pull. So you can pick out the little squares and make your own shapes. In my case, I didn't want to keep picking out the whole thing, so I would go in kind of at an angle and cut them off. So that when I put in my firearm, it would be kind of closer to the surface. Looks a little cleaner that way. And I'm hoping a little bit later on I'm going to try the rubber coating that people are putting on here, Plasti-Seal, and see if that holds it all together better, kind of like some other YouTubers have demonstrated. I'm definitely one of those people that gets a little nervous about cutting into something I just bought, and I want it to be just right. So here I am setting this up. I did a little homework, and to put in a new insert, even if it's just cheap foam, probably cost me about 14 to 24 bucks. The whole case on sale with a 20% off coupon was only about 100 bucks at Harbor Freight. So what I'm thinking here is kind of put my AR mags up there in the corner, and then my most commonly used holster when we do our shoots, I'm gonna embed that in there. I saw that on another YouTuber video. I like that people had their mags out and available. I know when you're traveling by plane through the airport and you have to go through TSA, that you need to have these mags available and show that the guns are unloaded, have somebody check it and then lock it. At first, my very first trim tier, I did have the magazine in the weapon because my primary purpose for this is going to be show up at the shooting site in the truck, pull out the guns, shoot, and then go home. It's not like it's going to take a lot of extra time to load magazines. So another thing that I wanted to take into consideration with the setup here is, aesthetics are really important. I want to be able to open it up and feel happy with my firearms. They bring me joy to see them and look at them as well as use them. The other thing is I wanted it to be balanced weight-wise. A lot of people like to put all their weight down here where the wheels are, down at the end here. I wanted to be kind of balanced because most of the places I go, you can't just wheel these around. In airports, you can wheel them around, but I'm going to be carrying them with this big, heavy-duty, nasty handle. And I wanted it to not to be awkward. So after I put everything in there, I kind of made sure that the case was fairly balanced because it is big and heavy to begin with, so something to consider. So I just finished a new spot for the magazine here and tried to make it extra narrow. So I actually cut the little squares there in half, the pick and pull spots. So I did that just by taking a pair of scissors, going straight down, cutting them in half as I went. The reason I did that is because the magazine for this firearm is much narrower and I didn't want something kind of loose. So hoping that, when I kind of pop it in there, it looks nice and clean. Obviously you can see as I go, it's getting tighter and nicer. So hopefully I can come back and kind of clean this all up before I spray it with the Plasti-Seal. I think this would definitely bother some people, kind of having this uneven mixture in here. For me, it's more important, I think, when I see my guns initially to have them looking really good. You'll notice the way I'm putting this in here. The reason why is because you can see that on the end there. It's already pulling away. That's what a lot of YouTubers are warning about. I want to make sure it fits in there good. And then when I put on that Plasti-Seal, it's supposed to stop the pull apart material from pulling apart. So we'll see if that works. So first round, thinking that it would be the smarter thing to do, and because it's such a small firearm, I kind of just eyeballed it and cut out. Now next round, I'm going to take a shot at outlining it with a Sharpie, which I just did, and then I'm going to making a shot at contouring the opening a little better. Now to make this a little easier, I've broken away the easy lines down as far as I want them to go. Again, I'm not going all the way down to the bottom because I don't want my firearm to be sunk down the whole several inches down there to the next layer. So I'm going to pull out just this core section, but I'm going to cut it out so that I have the depth that I want, so I can have this nice pretty surface look, and then individually go in and kind of cut through all of this, which ends up with a, not a perfect line, but hopefully we'll get better as we go, like you will. Now what I've been doing is kind of pushing in here and kind of snipping as I go just under the blocks that I want, and then I'm pulling them out, and then I'll go in and I'll snip as I go, just the ones I want, and then kind of pull them up and out. Now remember, we definitely went the economy route here, so we have these little parts, and this was pretty frustrating for me to have this really just fall away all at once, because I want my gun to look good sitting in there. As you cut this stuff out, don't be afraid to kind of stab in there. You just don't want to go past that line that is the outline of your firearm. And then you want to be real gentle as you pull these things back, so you don't yank out anything or yank apart any of this stuff that you don't want to have come off and make your case look a little more hodgepodge. So here we have firearm number 2, and see how she fits in there. Looks like we're okay. I don't know if you can see that, but definitely want to cut that in deeper, because up here on the top of the case, you only have so much depth. So I want to definitely get that in a little bit better, and the way that we'll do that is the same way we really cut it out, but we're just going to go in and cut these individual squares down a little bit one by one. A good tip that I'm noticing as I'm doing this is going down, and as you snip the scissors shut, you kind of use the scissors to hold down the foam block, and then you kind of cut and pull up the piece you want to cut. That'll stop you from pulling up one of these whole blocks, because they can just slide right out, whoop, and you're like, oh crap, and then you put it down in there. Kind of like I did down here. I tried to fix this, and we'll see if the Plasti-Seal and adhesive glue kind of glues that back together. Just because I didn't want to have a big gap there if I'm going to make my magazines look pretty alongside. So I've got to say, so far so good. I like that depth a lot for when the case will close down on these.